So this is the second part of the core transition demo. In this one, we're going to show you how to daisy chain animations. So when one animation ends, you start a new one. Um, so let's look what we had. So last time we made this image view move around when someone clicks on the view. But there's one problem. If you double click, it jumps to the next position, and that's not really the effect we want. So what we'd like to happen is it animate from the current position it's at. And they have a function for that. You need to write this before this line. This is where we're setting the new center. You have to write it above that. If you write it below, it won't work. What we want to write is UIView set animation, and I'm using escape to get a list of options, and it's set animation begins from current state. And we want to say yes. It takes a boolean value. And objective C, yes and no equals true or false. Now, the other thing we want to add is underneath where we set the animation state, we want to add a curve. In class, Hendrik was asking about what does the set animation curve do? And well, what it does, it takes a property and it allows you to control the easing of this animation. An ease is basically, it starts off slow and then it speeds up a little bit, or it starts at a normal pace and then slows down towards the end. So, and there are four options that you can choose from. If you do UIView, animation, curve, linear, by default it has a linear transition, which means it's just a smooth, the speed is the same all the way. But there are three other options. There's ease out, where it's kind of slow to start. There's a ease in, where it's normal speed towards the end, and then at the end it slows down a little bit. Actually, I think that's backwards. It's ease out is it's backwards, I think. But anyhow, then ease in and out, it's slow to start and also slow to end. So let's try an ease in, and I'm going to set the effect to a duration of 3 seconds, and let's just see if we can see what that looks like. So I'm clicking. I'm also clicking around. You notice it's not jumping anymore. It's starting a new animation from that point. But our pizza, we've got an ease on there. It's hard to tell, but there is a slight ease on this, but it does kind of appear as it's going the same speed. But yeah, that's set animation curve. So the rest of the demo, I'm going to show you how to trigger other animations after the first animation occurs. In the first demo, we added this begin animation, this ID here. We say at moves to. This is the name of this transition, and we can actually listen for this this name. What we have to do is we need to set underneath this line where we set the state. We want to add a UI. Well, UI view is what we're applying the function, and then set animation. It's set animation delegate, and we want to say self. This is saying that when my animation fires events, this class is listening for it. So when the animation ends, this class where we're writing this code is gonna be ready to accept, or it's gonna be listening for that. Now the function it listens for, I'm gonna write it down. This void. Unfortunately, the code hints don't work for this function. I'm not sure why they don't. So you have to just write this down. Okay. So it's going to be void animation did stop. So this is something that gets called automatically at the end of the animation. I don't know why it's not in the code hints though. Okay, and animate ID, that's the ID we're listening for. Finished. This finished part is saying like, is it finished or not? It's going to call did finished. And I'm also going to give you guys the source file. So because all this stuff has to be typed perfectly correct. So if you make a mistake, it won't work. But if you do find you run into a lot of mistakes and it's not working, just open up the source files and kind of play around with the code and figure out like kind of what's going on. But if you get to a point where there's just too many errors and you can't move forward, look at the source code and use that to start from there. Okay, so we have did animation stop. So I'm going to put an ns log in here, and we're going to listen for this anime ID. And so this ns log should trace out the ID, and the ID for this is move2. So I'm going to open up my console. Just clear it. So I start the animation ends, and then this prints out. So it says core animation, move2, which was the name. So that animation's done. So let me click again. And this animation ended. So when you have that printing out, you know that animationDidStop is getting called at the end of this touches begin animation. So now we're gonna trigger some more animations when that one stops. But we have this ID, this moves to. That unique ID, that unique name, we can use that to do certain things. So in class, we talked a little bit about if statements. We're going to be using another one. So the way if statements work is it says if a condition is true, then do the code inside the if statement. If the condition is false, then go to the next part of the if statement. So we're going to use the anime ID, and we're going to say is this equal to, equal to string. It's going to be, is it equal to a string? And the string we're looking for is move2, because that's the name of our function. And then square bracket. Just give me a warning. I'm just going to comment that out. So this is saying if the anime ID is moves2, then do the code in the curly braces or curly brackets. And what kind of code do we want it to do? Well, we want it to do another animation. So let me set up another animation, UIView, begin animation. And this animation, we're going to give it the ID bounce. What I want to happen is when the pizza or the image ends the animation cycle, I want it to bounce. All right, so we set that, UIView. We want to set animation duration. We'll do 0.5. We just want it to bounce quickly. And then we want to do UIView set animation. We have to set the delegate again, because we want this function to also listen. When this function ends, we also want it to call this animateDidStop, because we're going to have another animation after this. Then we want to set, what's the animation? It's going to be image transform. We want to scale it. So the transform function is CA core graphics transform make. I'm sorry, it's actually scale CG. There it is. And this just takes, we'll do 1.5 by 1.5. This just scales it. 1 is kind of its natural size, and then so 2 would be twice the size. 0.5 would be half of the size. And UIView, do commit animations, and I think we are good. But now we have another line down here. We're going to add an else statement. But this else if, it takes another condition. And in this condition, we're going to listen for you can copy this line here. Just make sure you get it in the square brackets. And paste that. And this time, instead of listening for move to, we want to listen for bounce. Then you can just go ahead and copy this. Copy. And paste it down here. But we want to change the ID for this one. Let's call this ID ended. This is, and in this, in bounce, we want it to scale to 0.5. And this, we want to scale it back to 1, back to its original size. Okay. And then finally, we'll just, because the other one is also using the setAnimationDelegate, so it's going to call this function again. So we just want to capture that and just trace out that the cycle is completed. So this last if statement is going to look for ended. And make sure you have to make sure all these curly brackets and the semicolons are right, or curly brackets and these guys, parentheses. We'll just do NSLog, and we're just going to say it's done moving. All right. Now, I think you guys are set. Do Command B to build, see if you have any errors. I got one error. What's the problem? I did not put a semicolon right there. You always have to have a semicolon at the end of every line. Objective-C is very strict about that. Do Command return, test, and I'm going to open up the console here. Yep, thanks. Okay, so I'm animating, and it should bounce. Oh, there's a bounce. Did you guys see that? There's a bounce. And then at the end, it's saying done. And so, yeah, what we did, we have one animation, an animation that scales out and then immediately scales back in. Because we're scaling out, then we're scaling back in. So if you guys want, you can play around with the set animation times. You can even try, we're just moving the transform, but you can stick other types of animation parameters in there. But that's how to daisy chain animation cycles and then capture the end, the complete of an animation.